Hello everyone and welcome back to Timberborn. We are on episode 6 of the road to 1000 beavers. It's hard to believe we've gotten this far already in just a few episodes. But right now we're in a fantastic spot. We have a bucket of science, we're doing great on food. Wood is a little bit short, but we do have excess water at the moment. And in the last episode we did construct the bot part assemblers as well as the bot part factories. And so now we have some bots running around. We have to go ahead and get the second bot into a job. Let's go ahead and plug that guy in right here. It costs 1,000 science, but we have plenty of that, so not a problem there. And so that should keep some of the beavers a little bit safe in the future, since the smelter is one of the more dangerous jobs. And we also have our second colony that is up and running. They are running a little bit short on resources at the moment, but since we have the district crossing, they should be able to get sufficient resources in order for them to survive. And soon we'll also have this section of levees constructed, and then we can go ahead and raise the water elevation through the sluice right here, and then we'll have some more green space. And we can also look at unlocking the fluid dump, which is only 250 science, so let's go ahead and do that right off the bat. And in 0.3 days we have a drought that is approaching, and so we're in a really good spot to survive that. Let's go ahead and pause these water pumps on this side, and let's also go ahead and continue to expand the Badwater diversion system. We have some dynamite over here, and during a bad tide a good portion of the Helix is going to be bypassed with the sluices set up. So let's go ahead and detonate this dynamite, and then we can continue getting some sluices set up over here. And we made it through the first day. Thankfully the drought is only 6 days long, not too big of a deal. And we have constructed another bot, so we'll go ahead and put him into this smelter, and then we can go ahead and preemptively switch the bot into this as well. And so another building that I want to unlock is the centrifuge, and it was not too expensive, so I went ahead and purchased it. And let's go ahead and start constructing it, but we need to make sure we can actually access this building. So we can go ahead and get some platforms and a path set up. And this will be essential in getting explosives, specifically the double and triple dynamite. And so one thing we can focus on today is getting explosives and then lowering this entire mountain, since the space over here could be utilized for many things. And one of those will be expanding our production line and also potentially expanding our growing area. And recently we did get some more food buildings set up. We have a couple of bakeries right here. One is set to bread, the other cattail crackers. And then we also have, looks like we are out of power over here. Okay, and now the windmills are up and running again. But this guy doesn't have anywhere to store the wheat flour. And then this guy is short on logs, so he can't actually make any bread. So let's take a look at making sure we have enough wood. I am seeing that we don't have a whole lot of trees to chop down. We do have some lumberjack flags over here we can unpause. And then we can also go ahead and pause a couple of these lumber mills, since we have a fair amount of planks, but we don't really have any wood to supply them. And in the second district, if we go ahead and get some stairs set up, then they should be able to chop down some wood over here. And so we'll just have to go ahead and high prioritize these stairs. And a couple of days ago I put a poll out that is asking what we should name the first district. And I pulled some of the suggestions that you guys had from a previous post, and most of you guys decided that you wanted to name the colony Beaveria. And so let's go ahead and rename the District 1 into Beaveria. And then once we've established our second colony a little bit more, we'll go ahead and do something similar. And if you guys can, try and think of a name that is specific to this colony. Let's not reuse any from the first one. Let's see if there's anything that we can pull from the terrain over here, or the beavers in the colony themselves. Maybe it'll have something to do with the mines or the scrap metal over here, maybe the hills or the ravine. There's a lot of options. But thankfully we got the first lumberjack up here, so let's go ahead and mark all these trees to be chopped down. And so one thing we do want to focus on is making sure that we have enough power for all these buildings, since 4 gravity batteries isn't quite enough to sustain all of them. Once we get this centrifuge up and running, then we can go ahead and get some extract unlocked, or I should say use the extract to get the double and triple dynamite unlocked. And then we can go ahead and place the dynamite underneath these gravity batteries, which will greatly expand their capacity. But we can also go ahead and get a few more gravity batteries placed over here. We're not going to super high prioritize these, but we'll have the beavers construct this as they can. Unfortunately, these little windmills are not able to supply even 100% of the power for the buildings, so we will want to look at upgrading these into larger windmills, which I probably should have done right off the bat, but we don't have any paper unlocked, so we have to go ahead and get a paper mill running. And so that's 250 science. That's pretty cheap, but we are still short on wood. And unfortunately we are out of bad water since there's a drought, and there's no more bad water pumping out of here. So that is all done. We got to go ahead and pause this guy, since you can see he is sitting around. I'm not seeing any jobs that stick out to me that I would love to put him in. We can go ahead and toss him into the farmhouse. I think it's a decent spot. Plus we can always get a third bot placed in there, and it's free. Looks like the bots are working on getting these sluices expanded over here, plus some of this dynamite is placed down. And if you guys haven't done so already, please go ahead and like the video. It really helps the channel out a lot, and it only takes a few seconds of your time. We recently went through a like challenge that I assigned to you guys, and as of recording this, you guys have been doing fantastic. We're only a day into it, but it is the most liked video that I have published recently so far. And it means a lot to me that you guys are continuing to support the channel. And hallelujah, the drought is over. And with the water returning, let's go ahead and focus on two things during this wet season. First off is making sure that we have some green area for trees to consistently grow, and so that will mean installing a few dams and or levees. And so the first one will try and irrigate this area around here, which means we want to go ahead and get a few levees over here. And then we can also work our way in this direction and get this lumberjack set up and then start harvesting some of these trees. And thankfully the power is back, so you can see that the gravity batteries are being charged up a bit. And we also have some Badwater once again, so we can go ahead and unpause this explosives factory. And we do have the centrifuge up and running, so let's go ahead and get some storage for both extract, as well as let's get some storage for biofuel over here, since it seems this guy is maxed out. And so we are starting to produce some more bots now that we have power once again. And so let's go ahead and put one of the bots into this lumber mill and unpause it. And we can lower the priority and do the same over here. Unfortunately, it looks like we have some beavers who are incapacitated. We did build a few more beds recently, but we need to get even more constructed. We can squeeze a few in over here, and now we can go ahead and start getting some dynamite placed under here since the gravity batteries are rising up, and we have some extract now. We'll start with the big guns and get the triple dynamite unlocked. Okay, so this guy is waiting around. He is doing absolutely nothing. Let's go ahead and pause him, and then we can go ahead and preemptively get some lumberjack flags placed over here. And so we have one final block that we need to go ahead and place down, and then we should also go ahead and open this up since the water is running dangerously low over here. And it looks like we have a fair amount of beavers who don't really have anything to do in the evenings. These guys overall are at a 15 well-being. They have a fair amount of well-being points. Let's see if there's anything we can focus on. We can go ahead and get a rooftop terrace set up for them, and then maybe we can get a Lido placed down. We can go ahead and squeeze a Lido in right here, and then we can also get some rooftop terraces on top of these houses. And so the water is starting to fill this area up. Let's make sure that we have this set to the right thing. We'll have it set to auto, and close above downstream depth of 0.5 seems fine. And while we have a little bit of wood, let's go ahead and set up some more storages. I know we didn't have anywhere to place the wheat flour, so let's go ahead and get that set up first. And then we can do the same for cattail flour. And we have a lot of projects going on. Unfortunately, it looks like we are not providing quite enough power. This is a little bit under the threshold that we want, so let's go ahead and pause some of these buildings that aren't being used. So let's go ahead and put some of the beavers in the second district to work. They have some Badwater right over here, so let's get some Badwater pumps set up so they can start collecting it. And we can also go ahead and try and utilize the power from this Badwater stream. So let's get a couple water wheels set up as well. And so now we have a lot for the beavers to work on in the second district. They're going to have to slowly make their way down into this area. But there's potential for them to expand the power production as well as the production line itself. But I think this will be a temporary setup. We will probably want to go ahead and get something a little bit more efficient set up down the line. Maybe we'll end up lowering this area and then expand the production line back here. But I know that dynamite is going to be in short supply for quite a while. And now that it seems we are maxed out on some of the bot parts, let's go ahead and turn the second bot assembler on. And we do have a bot who is in need of a job. So let's go ahead and switch one of these builders huts into bots and unpause it and lower prioritize it. The beavers have also finished placing the dynamite underneath the gravity batteries, so we can go ahead and detonate all this. And now we can go ahead and just keep placing some more dynamite. They are also slowly starting to work on the gravity batteries over here. We have sufficient resources. I think it's just about what we have prioritized. They did finish constructing these floodgates over here, and so now we have a good section of land that is going to be permanently irrigated, since we have these sluices set to close when the contamination level goes above 5%. And we can also get rid of both of these lumberjack flags. And these buildings are not as essential now since we have the observatory that we created recently. So let's go ahead and replace these buildings with some houses. And honestly, I don't think the beavers, well, I was going to say I don't think they use these stairs that much. It seems like they use it just a little bit, but they do have the zipline station that does quickly get a fair amount of the beavers up there. And I do want to make some of the housing kind of into the side of the hill. So we'll need to do a little bit of rearranging. We have some pretty small storages we don't need. And then we can also get rid of this warehouse over here. And then let's go ahead and get this triple lodge unlocked. And so with all this being irrigated over here, let's go ahead and get some foresters. And down the road, I do think that we want to get a district center placed somewhere right in the middle here. But for now, we're going to utilize the first colony to basically take care of everything in this area. And so getting some more zipline stations is probably what I'm going to focus on right now, since we have a good amount of resources that we can use to get the zipline pylon set up. And by just adding both of these buildings, we extend the range of the colony by quite a bit. You can see that it's only yellow in this area, whereas before it was completely dark red. In fact, let's go ahead and get another zipline station set up over here, and then we can go ahead and have one of them connect over into this area, since we want to go ahead and get a lot of these trees chopped down and then potentially add some more foresters in this area. And then we can also connect in a zipline station over here. And it appears that we are out of scrap metal. Uh-oh, they cannot get anything over here. Let's go ahead and pause everything right now. Okay, thankfully we have a fair amount of metal blocks. We can go ahead and remove all these guys. And then we can go ahead and get one scavenger flag set up over here to get these last few pieces. Super high prioritize this. And now let's go ahead and focus on the second colony. We'll need to get a lot of scrap metal collectors over here. And we'll once again high prioritize all of this. We do need to get some gear and metal block storage for the second district because they cannot actually construct everything. We can go ahead and get some small piles and small warehouses set up. And it seems the beavers of this district, they are almost maxed out on how many beavers that we can have. So let's go ahead and look at getting some more housing set up. We can go ahead and utilize the triple lodge, and then we can go ahead and place it right here and get some stairs set up. And so we have a few projects over here. We can go ahead and leave all this at normal priority, since we have some of the other buildings that are being prioritized. But one thing we do need to focus on is getting some wood in this district, and over here is a good candidate for getting some trees planted, since there should be a consistent water supply over here, and this is space that we aren't utilizing at the moment. We'll want to go ahead and super high prioritize this, and then we can also get a zipline station set up over here, but this is not super high on the priority list, since it really just makes it a little bit more convenient for the forester to get over here. We did finish placing all this dynamite over here, and so we are slowly carving a channel for the Badwater to flow out in this direction. So we now have another builder's hut that is set to bot, since we are increasing in our bot supply. We have 11 workers, and then the 2 vacancies are in this other builder's hut. And it looks like we have some farmers who are sitting around. Still have both of these buildings paused. We gotta turn these grist mills back on. But we have a lot of vacant jobs. We have a whopping 9 incapacitated beavers. I am not loving that, to be honest. Although I have been setting up a lot of lumberjack flags all throughout the colony. Oh, and we have to make sure we pause these guys. Also need to mark all these trees to be chopped down. It looks like some of these trees are getting ready to grow up soon, but we can go ahead and unpause them after the trees actually grow up. And we have another drought approaching in 3 days. So the power system is something that we got to worry about. We have some of these gravity batteries that are being constructed, and we can also go ahead and get some dynamite placed over here. We have reached the bottom of the map over here. So as you can maybe see, we can't actually fit any more dynamite down here. And then we can get a final gravity battery set up here in order to connect this whole system in. And I actually never ended up placing a paper mill down. So let's go ahead and get one placed right here. And then we can look to start upgrading some of these windmills. Let's go ahead and unlock this one for 1.4 thousand. But these produce double what the smaller windmills produce. Oh my gosh, we have 23 vacant jobs. We're increasing in incapacitated beavers. I am not liking that. I forgot to switch this second explosives factory to bots, so we can go ahead and do that. And then let's reduce the amount of beavers we have working the farmhouse. In fact, let's just pause one of them entirely. Since they are pretty much maxed out, we're looking like we could use some spatter dock. Since this guy, he is making as much spatter dock as he can. We can go ahead and switch one of the more dangerous jobs to bots. Only 1.5 thousand science, not too much. We still have 2.8 thousand remaining. And that will also help get our extract stores up in preparation for the upcoming drought. Thankfully, we are starting to get some scrap metal in this second district, as well as they are planting some trees over here that is going to be much needed since they have 0 wood at the moment. And the drought has officially started. Looks like we're a little bit short on gear, so we can't go ahead and upgrade any of these windmills at the moment. We have a fair amount of planks, so I think it's worth go ahead and getting some bots in here. And hallelujah, we do have some trees that have grown up. We still have a fair amount of vacant jobs, so we got to go ahead and prioritize these lumberjack flags. And then we can go ahead and start pausing some of these miscellaneous ones around the colony. Thankfully, we got some of these floodgates installed before the drought hit, so now we have a good amount of irrigated land in this area. And so we can continue and have some trees planted and chopped down over here. And so down the road, when we have access to a lot more resources, we can probably add some power production in here with water wheels, as well as we can probably get some overhang set up over top the water and then get some dirt blocks placed on top. which will greatly expand how much green space we have access to. It does look like the beavers have finished constructing this part of the mega reservoir, and since I want to have access to inside here, for now we're going to go ahead and get a couple of platforms set up temporarily, and then we can also go ahead and continue expanding over this way, but I'm not going to build any levees over here because we will probably trap the bots and beavers, so we'll have them construct these two first. So we have a 7-day drought. We are a couple days into it so far. Thankfully we have a little bit of power since we have the windmills running, and the gravity batteries are also only partially being utilized. They're really just offsetting the difference between what we can produce and what we need. But we don't have enough Badwater, so we'll go ahead and pause both these explosives factories. And it seems that 2 Badwater pumps is not quite enough, unfortunately. So let's start laying the groundwork to get a couple more placed down. And then we can also continue to get some levees placed down. But this will all be stuff that they work on when they can. And so we do have the paper mill up and running. We don't have any storage for paper, unfortunately. And since we have a fair amount of wood and planks, let's go ahead and unlock this large warehouse. And then we can start funneling carrots into here, and then we'll switch the carrot storage right here into being paper. And then we can slowly start replacing some of these smaller warehouses with the larger ones. And so I definitely was not able to get to clearing any of this out with the dynamite. Now that I've been going through today's episode, I realize that this is actually not that big of a priority. I would like to tackle it, but it'll probably be down the road once we have some more excess resources, since right now we're running pretty dang short on explosives, and we have a bunch of smaller projects that we should work on first. And now that we have some more bots that are being produced, let's go ahead and switch some of these lumberjack flags to be bots, just so that they can work around the clock and continue to chop down all these trees. And we can also turn this forester back on as well. And we have 12 beavers who actually need a job. So that is some good news. We can go ahead and start unpausing some of these buildings once again. We can always throw a few more beavers in the district crossing. So let's go ahead and replace some of these smaller windmills with the larger ones. We'll wait until the next day has started so we don't waste any of the power production that these guys are producing. Oh my goodness, we have a lot of beavers who are injured. It is going down. We're down to 7 instead of 13 or 12 or whatever we had before. And so at this point, we have 9 beavers who are unemployed. That is a good problem to have. And so with all this green space, let's go ahead and get some more foresters set up. And we can also focus on getting some more levees constructed. And we can also get a couple more builders' huts set up as well. Now, unfortunately, Badwater is something that we are really needing, specifically for getting explosives created. So we're going to go ahead and focus on that heavily during this next wet season. So we can go ahead and switch all these Badwater pumpers to be bots, as well as we're going to upgrade these storages since we only have 5 small storages at the moment. And the drought is officially over. The water is returning to this system. And thankfully that is the case because we have no power over here. During this upcoming wet season, we can go ahead and upgrade a lot of these windmills into be the larger ones. We'll just need to focus on getting enough paper produced. It is 1,000 science to switch this to bots, so we'll go ahead and preemptively do that. And that is where we're going to wrap up today's episode. It seems like we got stalled out a little bit today. We were running a bit short on Badwater, but hopefully we're going to go ahead and focus on that in this upcoming wet season. Getting bots placed in the Badwater pumps, plus getting some more storage set up for the droughts, should both be things that'll help us get enough Badwater stored up. So if you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. It helps the channel out tremendously. And with that, we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.